Hi everybody, I'm Hector Garcia, CPA and Advanced QuickBooks Pro Advisor. And in this video, I would like to talk to you about the estimates and invoice experience in QuickBooks Online. This is probably one of the most common reasons why people get into QuickBooks Online in the first place, is because they want to send estimates and invoices to their customers. Now, to create an estimate or an invoice, we're going to click on the New button on the left-hand side. We're going to click on New and then click on Under Customers, Invoice, or Estimate. Now, the invoice and estimate are different. They look and feel probably close to identical, but they're different because the estimate is a non-posting transaction, which means you can create a gazillion estimates and it's not going to affect your accounting in any way, shape, or form. The purpose of an estimate is so you can give your client a quote for a service you're going to perform or a product you're going to sell. Then the client can, at that point, confirm that, approve it, or decline it. And then from there, we'll start the workflow for you to create an invoice from that estimate. Now, keep in mind that you do not have to create an estimate prior to doing an invoice. You can go straight to invoice if your business doesn't create estimates. I'm going to show you both because a lot of businesses do start from the estimate. Now, the first thing you're going to see on the top left, you're going to see your company name, your address, your contact information. If you click on the link that says Edit Company, it will open a drawer on the right-hand side. And this is where you can change the company name, the contact information. If you have something misspelled in your address or something like that, you can kind of fix that on the fly. So that's the first thing you're going to do on the top left. If you have not uploaded a logo into your QuickBooks Online file, this is the time to do that. So here on the top right, there's a link that says Add Logo. You can click on that and then go search for a logo inside your computer. So after you uploaded your logo, it should be there on the top right of the screen. Now we're going to scroll a little bit down and we're going to see the next option here, which is Add Customer. You are required to add a customer when creating an estimate or an invoice. Without that, you won't be able to have that. If you already have customers in your database, when you click on the drop-down menu, all your customers and projects in your database are going to be listed in there. This is a brand new QuickBooks file, so I don't have any customers. So I'm going to create my new customer on the fly. When I click on Add New, I see the drawer on the right-hand side where I can add my customer either by name or by company name. So let's say this customer is called ABC Customer, and then I can put their contact information, their email, their phone number. You are going to need to put a cell phone number here on their mobile number if you want to text the invoice to your client. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. And you're going to want to put an email, of course, if you want to send the estimate or the invoice to your client via email. There's all the information about the client you can put here. So let's put an address. So we'll put 101 Elm Street, Miami, Florida, 33333. And then there's all sorts of other things you can add. Customer notes, attachments, if you have a contract with your client, preferred payment method, preferred payment terms. All this information is going to be right there on this right-hand drawer. So I'm just going to click on Save. So my customer information gets loaded in there. Now you will notice that there's a Bill To and a Ship To address. There's actually a setting in QuickBooks where you can turn off the Ship To address if you're not shipping something to them, because that would be confusing. There's additional fields here like ship via, a shipping date, tracking number. These things can be removed as well if you don't use any of them. But if you are, you're going to use them, of course, you can enter whatever information you want to put in there. Now to scroll a little bit down, and let's say you want to change something from the customer profile, you can click on Edit Customer, just so you can click on Edit Company. The right-hand side drawer opens up and then you have access to all of your customers' information. When you click here on the Manage button and you click on Customization, this is where you can choose what you want to see in here. So if I don't want to see the Ship To address, I don't want to see the estimate status, so you can see this stuff over here. If I don't want to see the estimate number, if I don't want to see the estimate date, the expiration date, all of these things can be completely controlled based on what you want to use. Now, these two bottom ones, service date and SKU, those are going to be driven towards the actual content or the lines of the estimate itself. This on the top of service date and SKU, these are all from the top or the header of the estimate. Now, there's also the ability to add custom fields. QuickBooks Online Simple Start Essentials or Plus allows you to add up to 3 custom fields, and QuickBooks Online Advanced allows like 50 custom fields. So if you're going to be very, very much into creating custom fields for the header section of your estimate or invoice, you might want to think about working on QBO, QuickBooks Online Advanced. So if I click here where it says Manage, and I click on that, click Leave Without Saving, it will take me to my Custom Fields menu where I create all my custom fields. So if I can click here where it says Add Custom Field, and again, you get up to 3 custom fields on the lower versions of QuickBooks, and you get a whole bunch more on the Advanced Edition. So let's say I'm gonna have a custom field for, let's say, the county that the client is in. Maybe this is some internal information that we're tracking. So I'm gonna click on All Sales Forms because I wanna track the county of the customer, and this is manual information we're gonna track. And then I can choose whether or not I want this to print or to show in the estimate or the invoice. So we're gonna click here where it says Save, and there's my custom field created. Again, you can create up to 3 on the lower versions of QuickBooks and a whole lot more on the Advanced Edition. Let's go back here to the estimate, and we're gonna click on the drop-down menu here and click on Customer. So we load that customer information again, and then here under County, we can put here Miami-Dade County or whatever information that's related to the customer for that particular sale. Now we have here location. It says hidden. Location is for you to track sales or expenses by a specific department inside your organization, maybe a specific cost center. Now locations are only available in the Plus Edition or Advanced Editions of QuickBooks Online. If you happen to have multiple locations, you can click on Add New and track multiple locations. For now, we're gonna leave this out for this particular transaction, but these are sort of the way you can configure the header part of the estimate. You can also manage the tags just so you can manage custom fields here on the Manage Tags. We'll skip that. I have a whole different video in my YouTube channel that actually focuses on tags, locations, and something else called class, which we'll discuss a little bit later on. Now let's talk about the products and services section. This is where we can create multiple lines. So the first thing we're gonna see is the service date. So if you are providing a service and you wanna tell your customer the invoice or the estimate is for June 5th, but this service is estimated that it's going to be done maybe June 27th. So it's a way to track, the estimate date versus when we think we're gonna provide the service. On the drop-down menu, you have a couple of options here. You have hours, late fee, services. These are all created by QuickBooks by default. You can create a whole bunch of products and services on your own by clicking on Add New. I won't go over this. I have an entirely different video in my YouTube channel that talks about all the types of products and services you can create, including inventory. Different conversation. But let's just work within the context of the services that are available now. So let's say we're gonna go here into hours, and then we're gonna here under description, we're gonna put service clients computer on site or something like that. So let's say that's what we do for a living. We service computers on site. And then we can put here a quantity. So let's say we're charging 6 hours. So we'll put 6, and then on the rate, let's say we charge $60 an hour, and then I hit tab, and then it does the math. So there it is, $360, simple math. Now you can add one more thing here if you want to. So we can do maybe date this for July 31st. And then here under service, we can put here follow up call or something like that. And then maybe we can charge a flat fee of $100. Under quantity, if I put 0, and even if I put 100, the sum or the math will be 0. If I remove the 0, then QuickBooks assumes it's a 1. Okay, that's kind of an interesting piece of this whole thing. Now, once I create my lines, I can actually click on this little plus sign and add more lines if I want to. I can also click and drag these and change them in order. So if I wanted to present any of these in any particular order, I can do that. I can also create subtotal. So for example, I can click here on add subtotal, and I will subtotal these 2 amounts, the $460. I'm gonna close the this right drawer here so I get a little bit more real estate. So here's my total, and then I can put a description. I can put here total services. And let's say, for example, we're also gonna sell a product or something like that. So I'm gonna do add new and I said I wasn't going to cover creating new products and services, but it's might as well. Let me create a non-inventory item, and then we're just going to call this cables. And then I'll go ahead and under income account, I'm going to change this to sales of product income. Again, this whole section is going to be covered in a whole different video. I just kind of want to focus on the estimate and the invoice presentation. So let's say we have cables here, and let's say we're going to charge $27 worth of cables. And then we also have a column here for class, which is similar to location. So if you wanted to track different dimensions of data for your reports, you can also track classes. Again, classes, locations, only available in the Plus and Advanced editions of QuickBooks Online. And I have a different video that explains these two Plus tags and how they compare. So for now, we'll leave them out. I'm just showing you that they where they are, so you understand what to expect when you turn on these features, that you're going to see these things in your estimates. Then we're going to scroll down, and then we have customer payment options. So if you have activated your payments, which means you're allowing customers to pay you via credit card, via PayPal, via Venmo, via ACH, via just most of the direct bank payments, even Apple Pay, you can actually enable through a service called QuickBooks Payments. If you haven't enabled that, you can click on Activate Payments and go through the workflow, and it takes you through the application. This is a credit application. They are going to check your business credit and your personal credit as the owner to make sure that you don't have any bankruptcies or any financial problems where QuickBooks would feel it's a risk to do that. Now, one thing I do want to add is if you haven't done that yet, actually send me an email and I will connect you with my payments guy inside QuickBooks that actually gives you better rates. So when you click on Activate Payments, I just want to add quick context here, and you click here to see rates, it will actually tell you what is it that they're currently charging to allow customers to pay you electronically. Now, these rates are going to be better when you purchase them through what QuickBooks calls the QuickBooks Solution Provider channel, the reseller channel. I'm part of the reseller channel. So again, if you already created it, that's fine. It should be working. If you haven't created it yet, just email me and they'll create it for you, and they'll give you basically the same rate I get as a reseller. So something to think about. It's going to be very small, but over time, it's going to add up. Anyway, so just wanted to do a quick plug for that. Okay, so then we have notes. So tell your customer, how would you like to get paid? And I can say something like, must pay 50% to get started. If you pay via credit card, we will add a 3% fee or something like that. Now, I know that adding something like this could be an issue because some states actually prohibit the use of that and some merchant providers prohibit that. I'm just using an example of what I get to see in tons of estimates and tons of invoices from people. Now, note to customer, we can say something like, we would love to do business with you. And here on the memo on statement, this is hidden and it will not show up on your estimate, but will show up on the statement. So here's just information you have where you can add additional notes. Keep in mind that here in the description, you could also add additional notes. So how you want this to be presented is going to be up to you. Now, if there's a sales tax component to this, and this is why it could be useful to separate your total services versus your products, because maybe you're going to want to make it very clear that services are non-taxable, but the products are taxable, that sort of thing. So that's why I like having this subtotal option here under products or services, because it makes it easier for the customer to understand when there's sales tax involved. Now, sales tax is not set up in this company file. If I wanted to set up sales tax, I would click on setup, and it's going to take me through a whole sales tax workflow. I have like a 25-minute video where I explain sales tax in depth in my YouTube channel. Again, I'll put all the links to all the videos I'm discussing in the description section. I just don't want to get off track here. Now, if you're going to provide a client a discount of sorts, you can put here 10% or whatever, or you can actually click on the $ toggle and then just give them a flat discount. So if you wanted to, let's say, just take away $87 to make it $400 flat, you can do that. Now here it says edit totals. This is where you can choose. here on the right hand side what you want to add here in the totals. Now I can click on the manage button, click on that and hide that. But if I go back and click on edit totals, just so you know, it opens that. And here the discount and fees, this is where you can choose what kind of information you want to see here in the bottom. So if I uncheck estimate total, it removes that. If I uncheck discount, it removes the ability to do discounts. If I want to add a shipping fee, click on shipping fee, and I can add a $10 shipping. Let's say I'm going to overnight the cable to the client or something like that, and I want the shipping to be separate. You could always add shipping to a line here. That's, you would have to literally go in the drop-down menu, go to add new, and create a line for shipping, which could be useful if you want to control kind of where those shipping fees are going in your profit and loss report, especially if you got different types of shipping and you want to track, the revenue for that. But here's just an option to show it very separate from everything else. And if you do multi-currency, you can click here and set up multi-currency. There's going to be a whole different video discussing multi-currency. So we'll collapse that. We'll go back into customization just to make sure, just to reiterate all the things we can remove from here. For example, let's say if we're not tracking SKU and we just have a dead column there, that's just going to confuse the customer. Remove it, right? So like the idea to get paid quickly is never confuse your customers, right? Always be as detailed as possible. You can put here USB cables required for job or something like that. Okay. So again, I just emphasize, be as descriptive as possible. Make it very clear to your customer what is it that you're selling them. And then the last thing to look at here is under design. When we click on the drop-down menu, we're going to be on the modern view. That's where everybody needs to be. This standard is for the old QuickBooks files that have a carryover from the old estimate and invoice experience. I recommend avoiding that because they're going to remove that. And some of your files may not even have that option, may just have modern in there. Now, if you want to change the color scheme, we can click here and pick the different color scheme. Typically, people will use a color scheme that kind of matches your logo or your company colors. Up to you. That part is totally 100% personal preference. And then you have a couple of font options here. Not so many. I wish there was a little bit more font options, but you can pick and choose what fonts you want to see. So now that I'm done creating my estimate, I can now save it. So I'm going to click on the save button here on the bottom. I can also, let's just hit yes here. And then I can also click on the drop-down menu under save, and I can do save and new if I want to continuously create more estimates, or save and close if I kind of want to move on and go to the next thing. Now here on the right-hand side, we're going to see things like review and send. And in the drop-down menu, we're going to see convert to invoice and copy to purchase order. There's also share link. If you click on share link, you're going to get a URL that allows you to see that estimate digitally online. So anyone can just click on that link and see that estimate. Now you are required to track your customer's email. So actually we're going to click OK. And then let's go in here and click on enter customer email. We're going to put here abc@gmail.com. Then we're going to click here, it says review, or let's just start with share link so you can see. So click on save, and then there's a link. So if I actually click on this link or copy this link and then go to the direct URL, it gives you a preview of what is it that customers are going to see. It's exactly what they're going to see when you email them the invoice. This is a portal per se, and your customer can actually accept or decline this estimate digitally, which I love, right? Because it basically makes the whole process very digital. Now here it says view estimate. I can click on view estimate, and then I can see the breakdown here of what the PDF version of this looks like. So so when your customer prints it, it's exactly what it looks like. And look at the note to customer. We would love to do business with you. Let's go to, instead of doing a review and send, let's go up here next to edit, click on email view, and see what this looks like. And then it says the email message will go here, review and approve. That's the link that would take you to the other experience that we saw. And then the PDF view is a preview of what it looks like printed. So now we're going to do review and send, see what that workflow looks like. And then we're going to go into a screen that is going to show me basically an email preview. So here's the email preview. Dear customer, here's your estimate. You can change the subject line. You can change the email. You can choose to send yourself a copy. Always a good thing. Keep a copy of that. Here you see all your information. It says the email message you'll write will go here. This means that this email message goes in there. That's exactly what that means. Here in the drop-down menu, I have send a new, and then I just have send estimate, which you just literally just email that estimate to the customer. So that's the entire estimate workflow. There really isn't much to do from estimate creation standpoint. Let's talk about the next steps. Okay, so my estimate is created. My customer has approved the estimate. Let me go back into the estimate here. And then I'm going to click on here on the manage button. So I see the drawer, and you see where it says pending sent. That's the status of the estimate. If your client digitally clicks on accept or decline, you're actually going to see accepted or decline. Now you can manually, if the client calls you and says, done, let's do it, then you can manually change it yourself. So I can go from pending to accepted, click on save, and now that's officially an accepted estimate. That means that this estimate could be now converted into an invoice, okay? So then the conversion process will look like this, right? So the customer approves the estimate. I click on convert to invoice from the estimate, and then let me click on yes here. Then the invoice is gonna get created. Now it turned on a feature called progress invoicing, and progress invoicing will give you 3 choices. Total of all estimate lines. If you don't have progress invoice turn on, you just go straight to that option. And then you have percentage or amount and manual entry for each line. Now I'm going to do an entirely different video focused on progress invoicing. So we're gonna skip progress invoicing and just go to the default option, which is just duplicate the estimate into an invoice. So we're gonna click on create invoice, and then the invoice gets created for you automatically. Everything gets pre-filled. You don't have to do the work again. Here on the right-hand side, you get to see that there's a link. There's a linkage from the estimate into the invoice. So you know that it's 2 transactions that are sort of related to each other. Here where it says link transactions, if I click on that, I see the list of all the estimates that is linked to, and I can remove, destroy, or break that linking if there's an error. Then in here, I can change things. So the service date changes or the invoice date changes. So let's say this invoice was completed on the 27th. And then this is the really important part, is how many days I'm going to give my customers to pay me. So if I say do 15 days, 15 days after the 27th, so July 12th, the invoice will officially be late. Now, if the invoice is late, you can choose for QuickBooks to add a late charge for you automatically, or you're just letting the client know, hey, you better pay me. Now, you can get paid immediately. If you click on terms due on receipt, you have the option to communicate to your client that they have to pay you immediately. And that's it in a nutshell. Notice that you have note to customer, you have internal customer note. So this is an interesting one. That's a hidden note. So we can say this customer was a PITA. Don't deal with them again, or something like that. So that's just me kind of like letting the other QuickBooks users in my team know, hey, if you're looking at this invoice, forget about this customer. It was a pain in the butt. Don't do business with them again. Internal note. Customers will never see that. Then we have memo on statement. Then we have a note to customer. And then we have tell your customer how you want to get paid. Again, I'm kind of stuck in, what happens when I put something here. I'm going to put here things a lot, okay? And then here is just attachments. You can add an attachment. So I can click on attachment. I can add any document, a PDF, a picture, whatever. I can add that in there. And then when I email this to my customer, I have the option to click attach to email. Then my customer will actually literally get the same attachment on the email what we sent. So maybe we have a signed document. Maybe we have a contract. Maybe we have a picture of the final work that we did, or a checklist, or whatever. Like, different businesses work in different ways. Now we're going to click here on the manage button so we can open that drawer on the right hand side and then talk about the other options that we have. So under customization, identical to the estimates, same checkboxes we can remove. So we can remove ship to and that sort of thing if I want to. Payment options, this is, as we mentioned, once you have turned on payments, then you get to choose, I want my customer to pay me with this type of payment or not. I want this customer to only send me a check. I want this customer to only pay me via banking, right? So I get to choose exactly how I want to get paid once I enabled that payments account. Here at the bottom, we can also choose what this footer looks like. So we have the invoice total. We have whether or not there was a deposit. So if you wanted to add an inline deposit where the customer, let's say, pay me $100 the day that I got there, but they're gonna pay me the rest later in the future, something like that, you can track. And then again, shipping fee. Then we discussed late fees. So I have it configured so after a 30-day grace period, QuickBooks will automatically add $25 late fee to that. That's actually pretty cool. Under design, identical to the estimates, we have a modern view. We have the colors we can have and the font. Under scheduling, you get to do a couple of really interesting things. One, you can make the invoice recurring. So if you're trying to have monthly services or something like that, you can click on this little checkbox and it will take you to the recurring screen. Then we have more options. So if you wanted to queue this to be printed, let's say at the end of the month, you print all these invoices in one shot to then stuff them in an envelope and send them to your clients. That's where you would do that. Let's say, for example, you only email invoices on Fridays. You can click on send later and then queue it up for an email when you want to email it. I personally like to email things immediately, but every business has its own workflow only way, the own particular way that they want to work. Then we have invoice reminders. So you get to choose whether or not you want QuickBooks to automatically email your client, just nudge them. Hey, we have an invoice due in 3 days. Hey, the invoice is due now. Hey, you haven't paid the invoice. It was due 3 days ago. So you get to choose how you want to do this. And what's really cool is when you click on manage, you can 100% manage this experience. You can personalize this experience. So when you go into the settings and you go down to, I believe it's messages, is it messages? Or actually reminders, there we go. You can actually pick how you want this reminder. So here it says default email message for reminders. Click on the drop-down menu and I can actually say, look, this is the actual message that I want my customers to see when I send them that nudge reminder. And I can turn on the first reminder and I can choose, look, do it 7 days before it's due. And then I can turn on, let's say, the middle reminder and I can do on the due date, right? And then I have the late reminder, which I can do, maybe not 3 days, but maybe 14 days after it's due. So you get complete control, but not complete control, but you get a couple of options here on when you want to set those reminders. So we're going to click on save, done, save that setting, go back to the previous tab with invoices. And then when I go back into the invoice, these days will change because we changed that in the setting. Now, these are global options. So they are the same across the board to all customers. It would be really cool if you can customize this experience. Like some customers get reminded 3 days before, 3 days after. Some customers 15 days before, 15 days after, or 14 days, whatever. That would be cool if you could do that. But right now, it's just a global setting. It says it right there. It applies to all outstanding invoices, all customers in the future. Now, customer reports, this is pretty cool. So if you're like looking at an invoice and you want to quickly see an open invoices report or an all transactions report, you can quickly do that. Based on customer feedback, people want to see reports contextually while looking at invoices. Now here on the print and download, simple. It just creates a PDF of the invoice. So if you want to print it or manually attach it or whatever, there it is. You see exactly what that looks like. See, this one does show the payment instructions. So it looks like the payment instructions just don't show natively in estimates, but they do show in invoices, which kind of makes sense because invoices are to receive a payment and an estimate is not. So just kind of keep that in mind that in the estimate level, the payment instructions don't show. So you got to put that in the note to customer section as we covered earlier, and you can print from here. Then we have a save button here. We can do save and new, save and close, or just a plain save. And then on the right-hand side, we have review and send. And then we have the drop-down menu. We have receive payment. This is after you invoice, you receive a payment. And then you can also share the link if you want to see that link that we covered earlier when it comes to seeing what that looks like. So we'll click on done, open a new tab. Let's paste that link in there so we can kind of see what the invoice looks like. And here we go. And your customer will see this. Now, because the digital payments feature hasn't been turned on, it says here, hey, we haven't yet have a mechanism for your customers to pay you digitally. So your customers actually can click on yes, let them know. And essentially, QuickBooks will email you and say, hey, your customers want to pay you digitally. You haven't turned on payments yet. Intuit really wants their small businesses to get paid through their payment system so they can charge their fees, and there's another revenue model for them. But it's very convenient, right? You're creating the invoice, you're creating a mechanism for the customer to pay you. It just makes sense. Here on the right-hand side, customer can see summary information. They can click on view invoice, view that PDF. They can click on download the PDF or print the invoice. They can see here your contact information as well. So this is exactly what your customer is going to get when they click on that invoice, that email that they get for the invoice. And that essentially is it. Once you save the invoice, then at this point, you can do the next actions. And then once you're looking at an invoice, here under manage, you're going to see an actions button. When you click on actions, this is where you get all the different options. So you can receive a payment. You can duplicate the invoice. You can delete the invoice. You can void the invoice. You can look at the audit history. So if multiple people in your firm are editing the invoice, you can see that in there. And you can look at the transaction journal, which is really cool. So the transaction journal essentially opens up a report per se that shows you the accounting guts of that invoice. So if you want to see that invoice from the context of debits and credits, so we see here accounts receivable being debited $487. And we have our services income account being credited $360, services being credited $100. And then we have this sales or product income for the cables, $27. So you see very clearly what is the accounting consequences of running of creating an invoice. As I mentioned earlier, the estimates don't post into your accounting, invoices do. Okay, and that's kind of like how it works. So we can go back into the invoice. We can click on the little magnifying glass, which is showing me my recent transactions. And there's my estimate. And there is my invoice. And that's it in a nutshell. I have another video that talks about the accounts receivable workflow. Accounts receivable workflow, it's about what comes next. We create an invoice. We receive a payment. We want to make adjustment to an invoice or write off an invoice. We'll do credit memo. If we want to skip invoices and payments as two separate transactions, we can do sales receipt. If we want to issue a refund on a sales receipt, we can refund receipt. If we want to add some charges or credits to a future invoice, you can use delayed credit and delayed charge. I cover all those things in my AR workflow video for QuickBooks Online. So hopefully this was useful to you. Now you understand the estimate experience and the invoice experience, and hopefully like you can get started with creating estimates and invoices for your customers. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions you have, go down in the comment section. I'll try to answer those questions. I'll try to create the next video that you like, that I get suggestions in the comment section. And also additionally, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and colleagues. And in the description, you're going to see links to all the other videos I mentioned earlier. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.